Good. How are you?
Good, man. So you went to Musicians Institute, huh?
Yeah, man. I went from 2016 through like the summer of 2018. I did the guitar performance AA
Nice,
degree, and
nice,
then I got my touring gig with New Year's Day, like right about the time I graduated.
nice. So if you want, we'll just get right into it, bud.
Sure.
So just tell me about your history. So how did you get involved into pursuing music as a career?
I started playing guitar when I was about 7 or 8 years old. Kind of got lessons, and they kind of took me through. They had a little book or whatever that the teacher was first starting to get me to like read music and kind of learn sort of the basics and stuff like that. But then through high school and stuff, I was playing sports and doing different things. So I didn't really take it completely seriously until I was probably about 17 is when I started playing in cover bands and bars and starting to get paid to play and stuff like that. So that was kind of a big turning point for me. And I'm from Pensacola, Florida, down in the Gulf Coast. So a lot of people, it's kind of like a big like summer tourist kind of area, spring break hub.
Yeah,
So there's a really good cover scene down there. So you can make good money just playing, covers and bar gigs, and you can play in front of a lot of people,
right.
just doing that stuff. So it was a great experience, especially as, a 17-year-old. I did that all the way until I was 22. And that's when I made the decision to go out to MI.
Nice. Nice. So you formed this band Gunshine recently, or because what are you're only 23 now, right?
No, I just turned 30 actually.
Oh
So
wow. All right. Sorry about that.
yeah, no, you're good. So this was when I went to MI. This was 2016. I had just turned 22.
Right.
So I did a year and a half program, and then I got an opportunity to tour with the band called New Year's Day, and I was kind of a hired gun in that band. But we toured with Hailstorm, Falling in Reverse, In This Moment, Godsmack,
Nice.
Ice Nine Kills, and it was all like arenas and large festivals and stuff like that. So that really gave me a lot of tour experience, and so I did that all the way through like COVID. But throughout the whole thing, I had always, songwriting is honestly the main reason I even play music. That's what kind of turns me on the most. I'm really into, when I was like going to MI and a lot younger, I was really working on my guitar chops, really into wanting to be able to solo and play fast and shred and all that stuff. But then, I mean, really, as I started getting a little bit older, I really, honestly, the songwriting and coming up with vocal melodies, big catchy choruses, that was way more interesting to me than shredding and all that stuff. So nowadays I'm more into like producing and songwriting and working on all that stuff for the band than I am even playing guitar. Usually if I'm working on something technical, it's probably just because I'm trying to record a solo or something, you know what I mean? So
Yeah. I know a lot of the guys that come out of like MI or like Berkeley are usually like most generally, shredders or, guitar clones or whatever. And one of the things that I have noticed talking to some of these, older guys that have been around for a while is that the most important thing is to be able to actually write a song.
yeah.
And I think that's what it's all about too. It took me a
'Cause
while to learn that too.
Yeah, I started realizing like that's what makes you stand out is because at any given moment you're the only person that can hear something in your head at that given moment. It's only going through your head at that time, and that to me was so cool because that's how I felt like I could create my own mark because anyone can. I started realizing like you go on YouTube and there's 6-year-olds that can just shred, so it's like that can be a little bit of a means to an end to a degree, but not everyone can hear the chorus melody that you heard at any given moment. That was only you in that moment. So that to me was always so cool. Was like that's like your thing. So
It's having your own voice in music.
absolutely.
Your own voice, like certain players, like whenever you hear like, for example, Eddie Van Halen play, it's Eddie Van Halen. Or I just went and saw Red Beach from Winger. who is also, he's an amazing guitar player. There's probably people
Yep.
that can shred a lot better, but not many people that can actually stand out and make their music really, personalized and have their own voice. That is, I think that's the key.
Right. And just growing up when, I'm kind of a 90s kid. I was born in 94. So my sister and I were listening to like the boy bands like NSYNC and Backstreet Boys and stuff like that. So growing up on all this catchy like pop music that was coming out, then there was like Britney Spears and all that stuff. I think I always was really attracted to like those kind of choruses that have like a pop sensibility to them, vocals that are very I guess structured and written in like a very melodic and catchy kind of way. So that's where I kind of felt like I had a little bit of a gift for, and then it was great because when I met my singer Jordan in Gunshine, his specialty is more the lyrics. So it was kind of like I was the melody guy and he's the kind of more the lyric guy. So it kind of was a good combination, I guess.
Awesome. So how long have you guys been together officially for Gunshine?
So yeah, I guess I kind of digress a little bit on the last question. So yeah, I was with New Year's Day through about COVID stuff. So like 2020, we had just got back from Europe and the whole world shut down.
Yeah.
And throughout touring with them, I had always wanted to start my own thing, but I just couldn't find the right singer. So I had known the drummer for a long time, James, and so him and I were already kind of playing, together. I used to do like some guitar instrumental stuff. So him and I were already kind of jamming on stuff like that. So we met Jordan in April of 2021. And I first got him over to do a writing session, and we wrote the song Wall Said to Call together in one day. So I knew he was the perfect fit after that. And then we recorded the first album in the fall of 21 with our engineer Chris Collier, who he did the new Mick Mars record, White Snake, a lot of the George Lynch stuff.
Nice.
Korn, he produces Korn. So yeah, he's awesome. So it gave it that real beefy like modern production. But the band's kind of first coming out was kind of the summer of 22.
Did you have any particular goal in mind or focus when you guys got together? Like, in my opinion, like I only heard like a couple of your songs, but they kind of remind me of like they're influenced by like older like 80s genre, maybe in some way. Maybe that's just my opinion, but where are you coming from when you're writing? Where's your influences and what's inspiring your music right now? Because
yeah, I mean,
obviously you can shred, So
thank you, man.
But as a songwriter, like where are you coming from with your band Gunshine right now?
So on that first album, which I assume that's maybe some of the songs you might have heard was some of the first album stuff. So yeah, on that we were really trying to. Again, it was kind of coming off the COVID times when everything was dark and depressing, and I was in Europe at the time where the sun doesn't come out, and I think just subconsciously I was in the mood for just getting back to that feel good, lighthearted sort of rock and roll stuff that just makes you want to forget about, all the craziness going on and kind of just get back to, just feel good, just power rock and roll. So that was kind of the mood in the air for me, was creating something edgy. We call it swampy because we're from Florida. It kind of has that sort of swamp rock to it that's a little bit of a different twist than the Sunset Strip kind of vibe. So, I think that was the feeling in the air, but it was also throwing in these curveballs that give it a modern twist, and just kind of, there's some things going on that are not so 80s all the time. They're little curveballs, little things that make it different, but it has that tinge to it. It has that feel. That was kind of the inspiration for that first album. Song like Feel Alright, for example. I woke up one morning with that vocal melody in my head, and I just wanted this big anthemic chorus that people could sing along to and that kind of thing. But nowadays I'm working on, we're working on all kinds of stuff that sounds, each song is my philosophy on songwriting is really one idea doesn't translate to the next one that might happen. So if I write one song, it's totally in that moment, whatever I'm going for. Like we have a song, What's Done Is Done, we put out recently, and that one's got this kind of country westerny feel with the acoustic guitar. Then it gets heavy in the chorus. And then at the end, there's screaming going on. So really, there's no rhyme or reason. It's kind of just whatever kind of pops in your head at any given time. And there's honestly all kinds of influences. I first started with like Stevie Ray Vaughan and Hendrix, and then got into Slash and Paul Gilbert and Yngwie. But I love Boston. I love the Cars. I love new pop music like Dua Lipa stuff, and just honestly, man, just so much, just whatever catches my ear.
So you're just trying to incorporate basically everything into basically what you like into writing right now.
Yeah, like there's really no rhyme or reason. I kind of just, I'm a big voice memo on my phone kind of guy. I go off of, I don't really sit down with my guitar and write that way. I kind of go, I almost start vocals first. So I kind of, most of the time I try to hear like a chorus melody or verse in my head, and then I can kind of picture where it's going, and I hum it into my phone, and then I sit down with the guitar and try to figure out what I was hearing. But there's really no rhyme or reason when that happens. So it could sound however it comes out at any given time, so that I try to keep it very loose.
Yeah. You know, I grew up, reading a lot of the guitar magazines with the interviews in them, and one of the things that really stood out to me was to focus on the melody, and then build everything around that melody. And that kind of sounds like how you're approaching it from the impression that I'm getting when you're humming the melody into the phone or whatever, and then you're kind of creating around that. That's pretty awesome, man. It's awesome.
Yeah. So I like to kind of feel inspired first, and then let the spark of inspiration kind of take me from there.
Yeah. So what inspires you? Do you have any particular routines or anything like that, or rituals or anything like that, of things that will inspire you? For example, like when I get together with my band, we used to like listen to stuff that we really liked, like different bands, and just crank it up and just get the inspiration from that and then write something. But everybody's got their own method. That was mine.
Yeah. That can definitely help, listening to like, especially stuff that's real fresh that's coming out. Like I like that new Billie Eilish record that just came out, and there's a lot of when you hear something that's kind of cool, it can definitely be inspiring. Some things that help me a lot. I'm real into like working out and fitness and stuff. I played sports when I was in high school, so
yeah,
something about getting a good workout in, getting the endorphins flowing. Usually, I'm very clear-headed right after that, so that's a great time. That usually ideas start popping in my head. So stuff like that. Oddly enough, just random things like taking a walk or doing dishes or being in the shower. Usually all that stuff can work well for me. And I'm really big on like putting an idea down and coming back to it with fresh ears in the morning. The morning time is great for me. So like when I'm sitting around with coffee and stuff, that's usually the best time for me to listen back to something. And then that's how I make my edits. And because that puts me in a listener's perspective. Because when you're constantly working on something, you're in the artist, you're in the artist or producer seat, but then you can come back to it with fresh ears as a listener. And that helps me know, okay, I went too far here. So I try to stay real separated as much as I can from things, and try to just, something else I do is picture if I was standing in the crowd at a huge arena show and this music was coming, was blasting through some speakers coming at me. And then I try to like think of it as reading a book, like you're taking yourself to a different place. So I'm picturing myself in the crowd, and then I ask myself, okay, if I was standing in the crowd right now, what part would I want to come next? What would sound cool next?
Yeah.
Little awesome mind games like that I try to play with myself, I guess.
Oh, that's awesome though. But So how do you balance your technique, which obviously you have an amazing technique, with your writing? Because you have to find a balance there, not to like overdo it. Like with me, sometimes I'll sit there and it's like, okay, I got to play this certain chord or whatever. I got to go in this key change, this modulation, or this or that, or this time signature, and which can get ridiculous when it just comes down to writing a good song. So how do you
Yeah,
balance that for yourself?
that's a great question.
You can do that stuff.
Yeah, it's a really great question. I think I try to not think about that stuff as much as I can. It was cool that I went to MI and learned all of it, and it's subconsciously in the back of my mind. Like if I know, hey, I need to resolve something here, or we're doing a key change, I know I can hit the 5 chord here, and that puts me in this key. So it's good to have it in the back of my mind, but I try not to think about it too much, and I try to just let it flow. But it can be a little hard sometimes. I do find, I think I'm getting better at it as I get older, to not just like put something technical on just because I can. I'm really trying to be better nowadays about like trying to keep things a little bit more simple. But at the same time, I'm influenced by Boston and Def Leppard and bands that had layers upon layers going on, and
Great songwriting.
Great songwriting. Yeah.
Great harmonies. Yeah. Great bands to be influenced by. But
see, that's kind of my touch, because Jordan, our singer, he's more of an AC/DC guy. So he almost comes from the background of like the single vocal and all that kind of stuff. Whereas I like layers. I'm adding oohs and ahs and things going on, and so it works well. But
awesome.
Yeah, from technique, I just try to
not think about it.
Try to not let it guide the ship too much, but it's cool to know that, hey, if I need to shred here, I did put in at least some hours, to where if I need to pull something out, I can, or I try to at least. So.
For me, it's almost like you have to forget about everything that you learned sometimes. At least for me,
Yeah.
So because like when I go in writing with like the band, it's like, I do think, it's always in the back of my mind, theory or whatever, but I almost intentionally forget like the patterns and the scales and everything to rely on them, so I can try to be more creative, and I'll intentionally break away from that and get chromatic or just anything to be different. And for technique, I learned something from somebody that's like very, very simple concept, but it's you take a technique, a specific technique, and you just make it your own. It's that simple,
Yeah.
Like this guy, he's like the master at the whammy bar,
Right.
Brad Gillis.
Yeah, absolutely. Night Ranger, yeah.
So basically, that's what he told me, is you just take one technique and you make it your own, And every time I've ever approached writing, I'm just elaborating with you, bud, as musicians, But
yeah.
Every time I approach writing, that's kind of what I do, is like, how can I be different, and how can I not sound like somebody else, and how can I, make this me? And I think that's important in developing your own voice, because it is kind of easy to fall into patterns, and to rely on certain techniques and everything like that you just shred on. But to make them your own is I think very important, and that's getting back to having your own voice as a musician. So as long as you're constantly striving for that, I don't think it matters what style or what genre or whatever you include into it. I think it's awesome that you're taking your different influences and doing that. But it's awesome, dude. Somebody's got to do it.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. And to piggyback off of what you're saying, it's absolutely how I think about things too. Like I think it's even more cool when you can, like, I think on the first album I was trying to do things that maybe to the average listener it doesn't it doesn't seem so much like it's very accessible. But when you peel back the layers, there are these little things that make it different, and they're little curveballs that are not so obvious. Like, hey, look at me, I'm trying to be different. But it's like these little things that are making it different but it's kind of undercover. Like you kind of gotta, and that's kind of, I think what I was trying to do was like, hey, for the average listener, it does sound palatable and easy to grab hold of. It's not like we're trying to be prog rock and all this stuff going on. And no offense to anyone that is trying to do that, but I think it was, and I know Nuno Betancourt talks about that too. It's like,
amazing guitar player.
Yeah, like making things different, but in the confines of like a catchy pop song. You know what I mean? So it's like kind of, I think that's what was a little bit of the mindset of the first album was like, hey, this chorus is like as simple, you can sing it, but it's like when you peel back the layers, it's like, wait a minute, why did they just use the pre-chorus melody over the second verse? You know, there's little things that we're doing arrangement wise that is a little bit outside the box, but you don't necessarily catch it on the first listen. So
because as an average listener, you're not really in tune with that, you know, or so than a musician that would catch that, which, you know, I apologize. I haven't really scoped out your music, but an ad just popped up with you guys. And I was like, wow, these guys sound pretty good. You know, you guys are, you know, relatively young. And it's a nice contrast to who I've been speaking with. And to get your insight on how, you know, the music industry is now and how you approach it. I know MI teaches a lot about, you know, the DIY method, you know, about promoting yourself, producing, blah, 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 you know.
right.
And how's that been beneficial to you in your situation now and to the direction that you've been going as far as the input and everything that you got from being at MI?
Yeah, it's super. Yeah, no, it's super valuable, and it is really the state of the industry now. Is you kind of have to be able to wear 50 hats at one time. You got to kind of be the producer and be the video editor and know how to kind of be the social media guy. And luckily, our manager, he's a big like TikTok kind of guy, and he's kind of the one that told us, hey, like you got to be able to make these, you got to post all the time, make these captions to where people can catch on to it and whatever. And some of that stuff drives me crazy. I hate doing it. I'm like, oh, I don't want to, I'm so sick of social media, whatever. But then you realize it's an integral part.
Yeah.
I know it's like, right, as guitar players or artists, we didn't think we signed up for that, but then you realize it's an integral part of getting your band seen nowadays. So just embracing it and then realizing that, and yeah, taking Bobby Borg's class, you know, at MI, some of his books and stuff I have, and it makes you realize like, it kind of opens your eyes like, hey man, I gotta do the work, and I gotta, like, you know, Gunshine, for example, is kind of my baby. And so I had to take the reins and say, okay, like, I gotta send the email to this person, and I gotta do this, and I gotta, you know, work on this and work on that. So it is, because honestly, you know, labels now are going to jump on board later on after you have millions of followers. And then at that point, you kind of don't need them anyway. Yeah. So that's just the way the music industry is now. It's kind of more like, because if you get a label early on, they're going to tell you the same stuff as if you didn't have a label. They're going to say, oh, post on TikTok, you know, market here, you know, they're gonna want you to do a lot of the work anyway. So it really just comes down to having to adapt to the times, I guess, you know.
Yeah, I agree with you as far as labels go, because more or less these days you have to prove yourself already before they'll even take a look at you. And by that time, like you said, you don't even need them anyway, because you've already done 99% of the work. And
right.
I swear I can totally relate to you with the social media thing. I hate it with a passion, but it's a necessary evil or whatever.
Yeah.
I guess it's in the way that you look at it. I mean, I'm being biased, I guess, but you know, it's good to embrace the technology, and it's good to embrace everything and utilize it and learn how to use it to your advantage. It's just not really for me, but I do it anyway because, you know, like Bobby Borg thought, it's like, it's a must, so I continue to do it. I think it's crucial. And that's the only way that you're going to stay relevant these days,
Right.
And even, for a lot of these older guys, they realize that now too. Fortunately, and a lot of them hate it with passion because they grew up, they were from a different time. But
Right.
for you being younger, it's easier for you to probably adapt to it and adjust to it because you kind of grew up in it.
Yeah, a little bit. I have always been a little anti social media, but it's helped it's helped the band so much that it's really it's like Nikki Sixx was like commenting on our post or something a couple of days ago, and it just makes you realize like, hey, if I wasn't posting these reels or whatever, then he wouldn't have seen that, and all the other people that have seen it so far, and even the reason why I'm on this interview right now. So it's really it's important, and it's as silly as it is sometimes, but.
So you mentioned that you're doing producing too. Are you producing like completely yourselves, or and just having somebody else master, or how are you doing this? Are you using what are you using for a DAW? For example, like Pro Tools, Ableton, or whatever, Logic. What are you guys using, and how do you approach that? And how do you feel about the digital versus analog, if we've had that experience?
Yeah, absolutely. So I use Logic. I do. We demo everything out 99% of the way that ends up being on the record, and I like to kind of get nitty gritty, and here's a guitar effect, or here's something on the vocals, or I like to get everything kind of prepped for the most part myself, and then I send it off to our mixer, Chris Collier, who I mentioned. He did the Mick Mars and Korn and all that stuff. And so, yeah, he makes it, he adds the big sonic sort of value to it. So, but one reason we like Chris so much too is because he kind of combines the analog and digital world in a really tasteful way. Because I think there's things that are great about analog, and I think there's things that are good about digital. And I think if you can balance it in a way that's tasteful, you can utilize both to your advantage. And so that's what we try to do. Like, for instance, like we do all real drums. Like we track the drums at the studio most of the time. It's a studio in Alabama that's about an hour south of Nashville. And he just gets great analog, nice, crisp sounding drum tones. And so we do that. And, most of the time we do real amps and everything. There are some situations where we've used the DIs and just used some guitar sims and stuff. And that stuff can work really, really good now as well. Technology has gotten so good.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty good combination of both. I mean, we utilize the analog and the digital world when it fits,
That's awesome, man. Are you guys working on a new album now, or do you have anything in the works now, or what are you guys doing right now, if you don't mind?
Yeah, we're kind of taking the singles approach right now. I just finished up this song. We just got the mix back for this new song that's got I don't want to call it like a country crossover, but it's a little bit like it's a hard rock song, but it's got that twang to it, the swampiness. It was a demo that our singer Jordan had from like 10 years ago, but then I kind of got in the weeds and kind of completely redid it and changed the chorus around and produced it, and so it was super fun. And we just got the mix back for that yesterday, so that's going to be coming out pretty soon. Probably by the end of the month we'll have that out. And we're just kind of doing. We find, because we did the album thing, and I love albums. I just think that right now, with us having 16 songs out, even especially as a new artist, that's quite a bit. So we kind of figured now it's good to take our time and do kind of singles. You have such a better chance to market the songs if you do singles right now. And we just kind of figured we're kind of at a little bit of a disadvantage as a new artist if we only do albums. I mean, it just, unfortunately, it's the way it is. It's like, hey, we can pitch every song for playlisting if we do singles. We can do a music video. There's so many more advantages marketing wise to doing one at a time. And then at the end, you can always put them all on an album.
That's important. That is definitely important to know. As far as approaching it with singles as opposed to albums these days. And you're not the only one that I've heard say that either, that would prefer to do it that way because it seems more logical, and it seems more easier to really promote, I guess, So
and it pains me to say to a degree, because I love albums, but I think as a newer artist, especially, like, because say you're an artist that already has a built-in fan base, then sure, just do albums because you already have that fan base that's ready and available for you. But I think when you're trying to break down those walls and you're trying to break those barriers, doing singles and doing the TikTok campaign around it, and each, especially if you feel that you write each song as its own thing and every song's different, then it's almost like the singles kind of fit a little bit better,
That's smart. So, you mentioned some of the influences that you've had, like Boston, Def Leppard for like vocals, I guess, and songwriting.
Yeah.
What about guitar players? Because like I said, I've listened to some of your other stuff and it rips, So,
thanks, man.
Yeah, like you mentioned Stevie Ray Vaughan, but that was particularly for a song that you were talking about, right? But can you tell me some of your influences and like how you got so good?
Oh yeah. It started off by with Stevie Ray Vaughan, Hendrix, and then as I got a little older, I got super into the 80s stuff and the 70s, like Kansas and Boston, and then Guns N' Roses, AC/DC. So Slash is definitely a big hero of mine. I'm not hiding that one bit. That influence is definitely in there. And then I got more into the shreddier stuff, so like Sinister Gates from Avenged Sevenfold. Amazing. Yeah. Yngwie, Paul Gilbert was a big one. But then there's like even YouTube guys, like Rick Graham is really good. I watch his videos a lot. Of course, Steve Vai, I absolutely love. Gosh, I don't know. There's so many, but
wait, right?
What's that?
It's hard to pinpoint after a while because there's just so many influences. Like, say for me, like I can name like a couple of my earlier influences, but then it just eventually progressed, and then I can say, well, this is my influence in this particular genre. This is my influence in this genre.
Yeah.
Style. I think. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I think it's like the bluesiness combined with some of the more technical stuff is like what I was kind of trying to do. And some of the more outside notes that like happens in fusion guitar playing. I always like that. George Lynch does that a lot. I have a tendency to use the flat five quite a bit. I call it the stank. You got to put the stank on it. I tend to do those kind of notes quite a bit. So I don't know. So Dimebag, stuff. Dime was doing that stuff all the time. Eddie Van Halen, I can't leave out. Randy Rhoads, but stuff that's a little outside the box sometimes. But yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say.
I think I really got inspired by Dime because he'd say like he's at the point where he doesn't even know what the fuck he's playing. He doesn't know what scale he's playing anymore or whatever. So that he's thought so much outside of the box, he doesn't think like that anymore. And
right.
That you really have to rely on your ear, and instead of like patterns and stuff. And obviously there's some Dimebag stuff that blow your fucking mind,
100%.
Yeah, so that's unfortunate about him, but and I love George Lynch. I took lessons from George Lynch for a couple of years, and he had this dojo thing that he was doing online or whatever. I could bring back and forth, and he was talking about he doesn't know music theory or anything, so he was teaching like in his own theory, you know, like Gothic scales and you know, just some wild shit. But yeah, he's definitely awesome, man. But so anyway, dude, we'll get ready to wrap this up. If you're cool with that, but I want to thank you sincerely for your time and consideration. You know, I want to wish you the very best with your projects and your band and everything. And is there anything that you, any advice or anything that you'd like to just leave off for anybody that's trying to make it right now, or any aspiring musicians?
Yeah, first of all, man, I really appreciate the kind words, and thank you for having me on, man. I really enjoyed it. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I would just say create the art that is in your soul, that's in your heart. Create the art that you want to make, and there's always going to be people online saying they love it, they hate it, this sucks, you should do this, you should do that. But at the end of the day, you should only do what makes you happy and what makes you fulfilled. If you listen to something back and you truly love it, then that's really all that matters, because there's going to be opinions flying around everywhere, and you got to stay true to yourself. That's all I can really say about it. So
that's awesome, dude. Thank you so much, Austin. Good luck with you guys. Stay in touch with me, all right? And good luck, buddy.
Yeah, man. Thank you. You too. Have a good one.